All right, guys. Welcome to the first, maybe the last. Who knows? We'll see how this goes, and we'll move on from there. But thanks for joining in to this panel discussion of questions that were sent in by you guys, by you as youth, as well as parents sending in questions about growing up, about some parenting questions in there, as well as some scripture and faith-based questions, and just some fun questions. Everybody likes some fun questions. So I'm actually joined by Conley. She is right over there. I think I'm pointing to the right direction. We've got William down in the corner down there. If this is different on y'all's screen, it is what it is. And then Amanda right below me. So big thanks to them for joining me and being willing to get on camera and answer some questions. This can be a fun thing, a scary thing, but it is what it is. So I thought we'd start off with some of the fun questions just to get going. A lot of the questions that we talked about or that were sent in were questions about our favorite whatever. So I'm going to start off with a pretty simple one. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. What is y'all's favorite sport? Amanda, we'll start off with you, and then we'll move to William and then Conley.
Yeah, my favorite sport is tennis. I played tennis in high school and then in college, and so that's my favorite sport.
Heck yeah. William, what about you?
Mine was track and field, specifically pole vaulting, shot put, and discus.
Nice. What was your highest pole vault?
I got over 12 feet before state, and then someone broke my pole right before I was going to go in state, and I couldn't get over the qualifying 12 feet.
Sabotage, man. All right, Conley, what about you?
So mine is tennis too. I actually played tennis in high school a lot, but now over the years I've grown to like disc golf a lot. So I would say those two. I can't pick necessarily a favorite, but I would say tennis and disc golf for sure.
Conley's trying to go pro in disc golf right now, so y'all might see her on a pro tour or something like that. We'll see. And then you guys know me. Basketball all day long. That's my favorite sport. Played it all growing up. I still like to play it, but I don't play nearly as much because I have not found a group to play with. I used to play with my roommates a lot, but basketball is definitely my favorite sport to watch and to play and to talk about. I can talk about basketball for a very long time, but I'm not going to do that now. All right, next question. This one's a little bit harder. I actually have trouble answering this a lot of times, but what is your favorite food? William, we'll start with you. We'll go to Conley and then Amanda.
My wife's spaghetti.
Is there anything special about it?
It's my mother's recipe, and there's a long backstory that I can tell you guys sometime later.
Okay, sometime later. Cool. All right, Conley, what you got?
I'd definitely have to say pizza. It's one of my all-time favorites. If I'm getting it from a specific place, like just a pickup place, I always, like if I had to choose between Pizza Hut, Domino's, Papa John's, like those places, I always choose Domino's, but pizza for sure.
Nice. Amanda, what about you?
My favorite food is probably just pasta in general. I'm a pretty big pasta fan, as well as bread. I mean, I feel like pasta and bread just kind of go together. So.
Yeah. I mean, pasta kind of is bread. It's not bread, but it is bread. Kind of. I like you, Amanda, and William as well. I know William did a specific pasta, but I would have to say that pasta is probably my favorite food. I really, really like chicken Alfredo, things like that. We're some Italians in here, man. Pizza and pasta. That's all we've got.
I've had the spaghetti William's talking about. It's pretty good.
Really? All right. Conley actually made some really special sauce a couple of months ago that is her grandmother's, and that was my favorite spaghetti that I've eaten. So I'm gonna have to try that one too.
Yeah,
I'm not picky about spaghetti. You put it in front of me, I'll eat it. Pretty much. All right. So on from food. What is now? This might not apply to everyone, so I'm just gonna open this up. Whoever wants to talk first can talk first. What is your favorite prank, or what is the best prank that you have ever pulled on someone? Does anyone have any stories?
So I'm not a big prankster, but I've had one get pulled on me that was
Ooh,
pretty good.
Let's hear it.
So my brother was the big prankster growing up, and I had something I had to be up really early for the next morning. And that night when I was asleep, he came in my room and handcuffed me to my bed. I had a bunk bed, and he handcuffed me to the top bunk. And he took a dry Kool-Aid packet and sprinkled like all over me. It was red Kool-Aid, and then sprayed nasty cologne on cotton balls and like threw them like all over my bed. And then the best part about it was he took a permanent marker and wrote on my foot, and he wrote butthole on my foot, and he misspelled it. So he put BUTWHOLE on my foot in permanent marker, and I had to leave the next morning to go on a church trip at
Naturally.
7 a.m. And so I woke up and I take my shower the night before, and so I had to like get up and like re-shower and like everything. And so yeah, that.
Okay, so if you don't mind me asking, how old was your brother at this point in time?
I think
And how
like
old
7
were
or
you?
8.
7 or 8. Okay, gotcha. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
All right, does anyone else have any stories? All right. So I wasn't much of a prankster either. I like a good prank, but I never really did much. But my freshman year in college, this was probably the best one that I've ever pulled. I pull like little tiny ones, not really ever big, but this one was pretty funny. So my roommate Blake, some of you guys have met him before. We've been best friends since 4th grade when I moved to Moultrie. Lived in the same neighborhood and everything, and then we were roommates in college. And so in our dorm we had 2 beds, and they were both lofted as if they were bunk beds, but they were just open on the bottom so that we could put things down there. We put a futon and a fridge and all that kind of stuff underneath them. But it was Blake was gone. I was in the room, and I was like, you know what would be funny? I'm gonna pull a prank on Blake. So what I did was if you've ever like been in my room, I have a really big body pillow. And so what I did was I put my body pillow like further up, and then put like a soccer ball on my pillow with the covers over it, which made it look like I was laying there with my head there. And that wasn't an abnormal thing. I actually used to sleep with the covers wrapped over my head. Weird, I know, but it is what it is. And then I got my book bag and put it at the foot of the body pillow and brought the straps out like to look like toes, like feet. And I left it there, and I left the room, and I did everything that I possibly could to avoid him. And so when he came back to the room, he just thought I was, taking a nap. He got there maybe like 1 o'clock. I don't know. I was avoiding him, so I don't know. And so he like went in there, was being real quiet. I think he played some video games, whatever. And then I think he left the room at some point, and then came back like maybe a couple of hours later. He was going to go eat dinner with some people at a dining hall. And he was going to ask me if I wanted to go. But I was still asleep in my bed. And he was like, all right, I don't know what's going on. Jay's been asleep for a really long time, so I don't know if I should wake him or not, but I'm just going to let him sleep just in case he just really needs it. I don't know. I didn't sleep much freshman year, so maybe he was thinking that. And so he got back from dinner. I was in the dorm at this point, but in someone else's room. I was in our RA's room, which was right across the hall. And so this was like, he got back, I'm sure he went to do other stuff. He got back maybe around like 9:30 or 10 at night, goes back into the room, and sees that I'm still there sleeping in my bed. This is since he walked into the room at maybe like 1 o'clock. So before 1 o'clock to about 10 o'clock at night, I'm still sleeping. So he actually comes into the RA's room. I hide in my RA's room. I hide in the room so he doesn't see me. And he's like, guys, I don't know what's wrong with Jay. He's been asleep for like 10 hours. Like, I don't know what's going on. And so it kept on going and kept on going. And then finally, when he was getting ready for bed, probably at like 11:30 or 12, he was being real quiet. It was real sweet. He was being real sweet about it. But I finally walked in and I was like, "Sup, Blake? How's it going?" And man, did he laugh for so long. He was so confused. But that's probably the best prank I've ever pulled. I haven't pulled many other ones other than that, but that was a pretty good one. Probably the most long-lasting, most effort put into it. So I don't know. I thought that was kind of a good one. All right. Moving on to, you guys sent in a good amount of questions about pets. So we're going to ask some questions about pets. First off, do y'all have a favorite pet that you've ever had? It can be a dog, a cat, a kangaroo, whatever you want it to be. Who has a favorite pet? Conley, we'll start with you.
So we had a lot of pets growing up, like here and there. Where I lived, we lived on a lot of land, and so they didn't really stay around a lot. So they always left, which is kind of sad. But I learned that they would leave, so I never really got attached to any of them. So I would say that I didn't really have a favorite pet. Animals really aren't my thing. I like other people's pets, but don't necessarily want to have my own. The only way that I'll have one is if Jay really begs me and makes me get one, then I'll be fine. But I love hanging out with other people's pets. So I would say that Jay's cat was probably my favorite pet growing up.
Packer?
His cat was, yeah, Packer's pretty sweet.
Sweet cat.
And so yeah, it was somebody else's pet and not mine. So I had fun with it.
Nice. And we're going to make this a two-part question. Favorite pet, as well as if you could have an exotic animal as a pet, what would it be? So Conley, do you have an exotic animal that you would want to be your pet?
I think it would be fun to have a giraffe in your backyard.
A giraffe? Why not in the house?
Wouldn't
I'm just kidding.
Not in our house. You know the answer to that one. Yeah, it'd be pretty hilarious for people to drive by your house and just see a big neck sticking out from the backyard. So that would be pretty fun.
All right, Amanda, what about you? Favorite pet, and if you could have an exotic animal as a pet, what would it be?
Favorite pet, I had two favorite pets growing up. I had a horse whose name was Diamond, and she was definitely one of my favorites. And then I had a dog, and his name was Shaggy, and he lived to be like 18 years old. He was a mutt, and he ate way more chocolate than any dog should ever eat, and I think it only just gave him longer life instead of
build up the immune system.
Chocolate's
right?
not good for dogs, but it just made him live longer, I swear. He ate 20, I had fundraiser chocolate bars, and he ate 20 of them, wrapper and all, and like didn't even get sick, like was just totally fine, like ate all 20 of my fundraiser chocolate bars in high school. So he was probably my favorite. He was a good dog.
Nice. And what about an exotic animal?
I'm with Conley. Giraffes are my favorite animal, so I think it'd be pretty cool to have a giraffe chilling in your backyard.
All right, nice. So we could start a zoo with giraffes. All right, William, what you got for us?
So I had a favorite dog. The dog's name was Taz, and she is an English Bull Terrier. If you don't know what those are, the target dogs.
Ah, yes.
And so she's just was a wonderful bundle of joy, and a 40-pound or 50-pound cannonball.
All right, nice.
So if I had to have an exotic animal, I don't know. I just can't pick one.
All of them. So William has chosen all of the exotic animals that you're thinking of right now as the pets that he would want to have. He's a lover of all. So that's his. So Conley took my answer, but I'm still using it. But Packer the cat was my favorite pet. We got Packer when we moved to Moultrie when we were in 4th grade. Had her until we moved away, and we just couldn't take her with us. It was an outdoor cat. It would have run away for sure, but it was a great cat, really sweet, just a great cat. Would always sleep on top of our cars. It was great. And if I were to have an exotic animal as a pet, Are monkeys considered exotic? Okay, I would go with one of those little monkeys that you see people that already have them. Like they like buy little monkeys. They're like this tall, and they're hilarious. And they can. I would just like want to sit there and like feed it like strawberries and just watch it eat strawberries. Have y'all ever seen those videos? They're hilarious. So I would want that. All right, so last fun question, and then we're going to kind of start moving into getting more down and dirty with these questions. If you had to live in and only eat at one restaurant, what restaurant would it be? I'll start us off because this is the easiest decision of my entire life. This would be my last meal on earth. If I was on death row, this is what I would ask for. It would be McDonald's, straight up. They got a place to entertain you. I got everything. It's beautiful. So I'm going with McDonald's. That was the easiest decision of my life. What about everyone else? What do you think, William?
So I would have to go with a Golden Corral because I've got to have variety.
Okay.
I just can't eat the same thing.
I dig it. I dig that. And it's expensive, and you wouldn't have to pay for it. That's a big one. I like that. Golden Corral. Go eat a Golden Corral. It's great. All right, Amanda, what do you think?
No, this is not my favorite restaurant, but if I had to be stuck in a restaurant, like, and only eat their food forever, I would definitely pick Texas Roadhouse because I love their rolls.
Nice.
And I mean, they've got like a good variety of a few different things. So if I'd be stuck there, I would definitely pick Texas Roadhouse because I don't ever get tired of their rolls.
All right, Nicholas Odom, if you're watching, Amanda wants a key. I know you work there. I know you can work it out. Amanda wants a key so that she can live there and eat there every single day. So hook us
Pretty
up.
much. Free charge,
Conley.
though.
All right, Conley.
Well, I was originally gonna say Chick-fil-A, but Amanda made me change my answer. I would actually go with Longhorns. They
Very
have
similar pick.
very similar. They have great salad though, great bread, and they have a pretty good variety too. Steakhouses have a good variety of food. And it's quality, man. Haven't been there in a while and wish I could go now.
Yeah. So you also, I mean, thinking about living there, now McDonald's probably wouldn't have the most comfortable booths, but you guys would actually have some pretty comfy beds, probably. So good choices all around. Mine is right, of course, but you guys tried. So thank you for trying. All right, so now we're going to kind of start getting a little bit into the nitty gritty. So the next question that I have is, are you close with your siblings, if you have one or multiple? Are you close with your siblings? Why or why not? And when did you become close if you are close? So I'm going to open this up to anyone. You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but I'm just going to open this up one to the floor. That sentence was bad. All right, who wants to go?
I guess I'll go.
Right.
I am relatively close. I'm definitely closer now with my siblings than I was growing up with them. I am the only physically distant family in my immediate, and I'm still fairly close with them. It was probably after I graduated from high school before I really kind of got close. I know it was after my brother got married and finally stopped being a little crazy. So although there is some physical difference there, we're probably still about as close as I've ever been with them.
Sweet.
Yeah, I can. So me and my sister Macy, some of y'all have met her before, but we are very close. It wasn't always that way growing up. I can't really remember what changed that made us close, but I think it was honestly me. I think I was like, I don't want to be friends with her. She's my little sister. But then there came a point where I was like, wait, she's my little sister. She's cool and she's in my house and we could actually be friends and have a fun time in this house. And so I think there was a little shift when I got into high school, and she was like late middle school when that happened. And then we got really close and had the same friend group and stuff like that. And then that just kind of carried on until now, and hopefully still carries on. But yeah, we share everything with each other. I would say she is like one of my best friends for sure.
Cool. Sweet.
My brother and I have always kind of been close. I think we really, like, when we really got close was when I was a senior in high school and he was a freshman. And my parents, when I went to all the football and like basketball games, told me that he could either come with me and hang out with my friends afterwards, or I could take him home and then be late hanging out with my friends. So he just had to tag along because I didn't want to be late and miss out, like hanging out with my friends afterwards. And so my brother was just with me all the time then, because we drove to school. I drove us both to school, and I had to wait around for me when I had practice for sports and stuff. So he was just always there. So it was annoying in some aspects, but it was also fun. And I feel like we bonded. Anytime he'd make me mad, he would put on Party in the USA by Miley Cyrus in the car to like make me happy when he would get frustrated with me. And so he'd start playing that as his
hilarious.
like redemption song. So
that's actually
I think
what Conley
that's
does
what made us close.
with me now. Anytime I'm not happy, she turns on Party in the USA, and it always cheers me up too. Cool. You guys know about me and Kyle. I don't really need to get into it, but we've always been close. We love each other. We still talk all the time. He's always FaceTiming me and doing all that, and we're calling each other and all that. So you guys know that, though. I talk about Kyle a lot, and you guys know Kyle as well. So you guys know that he's pretty cool. All right, moving on. This question is directed towards William and Amanda, because Conley and I do not qualify for this. We could speculate, but we can't give you a solid answer. What is the hardest part of parenting? And I know that you both are relatively new parents, but what has been the hardest part of parenting so far? Amanda, you go.
Okay. I would say the hardest part, I mean, I'm the newest parent here, going on a little over 6 months. I would say probably the hardest part is just knowing that you're responsible for another life. Like, I think that's the hardest part for me, is just knowing like I am completely responsible for Luke. And I think that's like a big wake-up call. It definitely makes you realize how selfish you are. Kids, being a parent brings that out, because you have to put their needs first all the time. And so I think that, and knowing that he's looking up to me as far as like for in the future and things as he gets older, and he's going to be watching like my relationship with Christ, at my actions, how different things that I do. So just like knowing I have that responsibility to him, I think that's probably the biggest thing, at least right now. We hit terrible twos, things might change, but right now that's where we're at.
For sure. Sweet. What about you, William?
Okay, I would have to say everything. I mean, realistically, we humans are really selfish beings. I am among the best of them with selfishness. But really, so you're trying to follow the Lord, and you're trying to just survive a day at times, and you get issues that you would have never thought would be issues. Like, I don't want to eat my food within a 3-hour period because it's just not enough time. And you're like, why? Just why? You have no other word for it. You can probably hear him in the background too. And you tend to get frustrated and overwhelmed, and you're just like, you didn't come with an instruction manual. And I realize this may be slightly a bit of God getting back with us and making someone in our own image that denies our very existence. Um, so it really is, it's hard, but I would not change it for the world. It's such an amazing thing and a blessing every day that gives back.
For sure. For sure, for sure. Well, thank you guys for sharing on that. Like I said, Conley and I don't know what's the hardest part of parenting yet. So it's always good to hear things like that from people before you get into it. So whenever that happens, whenever we have a little J or a little Conley, we'll know. All right. So this question can kind of apply to all of us because we have all been parented before. But what are some ways that you in the past that your parents or your family really tried to grow together in faith, really try to lead you down a path of following the Lord? What are some things that you've done, especially you, William, since your child can talk and understand things at this moment, and Luke is not quite there. But what are some things that maybe your families did, or what are some things that you guys are planning to do with your kids to be able to just really lead them to God? I'll kind of open this one up to whoever wants to take it first.
Well, I guess I'll go ahead and go. So there are a lot of things that we have tried and some things that we've learned that we just have to table till later. So like teaching James and getting James to do prayers that are probably a little more on the deep side it's just not going to happen at the age of 5. I can say this is a great shout out to Green Acres, the teachers at the preschool, fantastic, and everyone that involves with the kids are just amazing because we are having these conversations about who is God, why, what's this Jesus thing, and some really good thing. We pray with him. I love it that my son likes to pray for dinner. I wish, however, he would use actual words sometimes. So
Cool. All right. Anyone else? Some things that maybe you did in the past, or things that you hope to do in the future?
Yeah, I'll kind of talk on a little bit of both ends of the spectrum. So growing up, my mom was a Christian and was saved, but my dad, he's not a Christian and he's not saved. So as far as like my parents like leading us scripturally and incorporating like the Bible into our kind of daily lives, my mom tried, but it was a very hard dynamic because it's not that my dad didn't believe in God, but he didn't see like the importance of it, kind of thing. Like, yeah, we prayed before meals, like all together as a family when it was like Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, things like that. But our daily, like just every night dinners and stuff like that, my dad didn't really, see the point in doing that, as well as it was kind of like growing up, my mom tried to do like in the car on the way to school, she would try to do like Bible studies or like a little devotional type thing with us in the morning, driving to school, and kind of incorporate it that way. But as far as just like from a home perspective, I mean, both of my parents weren't saved. And so my dad didn't understand the need for that kind of thing. It's not that he was against it. It wasn't something that was just in our family dynamic.
Right. Growing
up. But that's something that Keith and I both want with Luke growing up to incorporate. We wanted him to just see it be in our everyday lives, our relationship with God, and us having worship not just at church but in our home, and that worship is more than just Christian songs, that worship is I mean, reading your Bible, singing. I mean, it is singing, but it's not just singing, singing, talking about God, asking questions. We want it to just be a part of everyday life, and him see that and then be able to ask questions, and it not be, when we have Bible time is the time to ask questions about the Bible, but to see it to see how Keith and I are incorporating scripture in our everyday lives and our relationship with God. And so that's something that for like the future, we want with him to incorporate that as he gets bigger. We read right now before he goes to bed, we read like a little like Bible story, even though Luke does not understand it. He's 6 months old, but we are starting that now, because as he gets bigger, we want to have practices and stuff like that already in place.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. Conley, you want to go, or you want me to say anything?
Yeah, I can talk about it. So I really agree with Amanda. Just hoping that our kids see God in us through our relationships, through how we interact with each other, through how we interact with other people, and realize, wait, they're following somebody, and I want to know who that is. And just being able to talk about it freely. Sometimes growing up, I felt like my mom was a believer and my dad, but he didn't see it as important. Kind of like you, Amanda. But I never felt like I could talk freely about it in my own home. And that's something that I want to incorporate in my own home, like being able to talk about scripture, ask questions. And so want our kids to feel like they can do that with us, to talk freely about it, to doubt if they have doubts and ask those questions and not be scared to ask those questions. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. And also knowing that our kid, if it's a girl or a boy, will be a pastor's kid. And that comes with a whole new level of, it just comes with a whole lot of stuff. And so being sensitive to that, and I'm sure God will show us how we need to be sensitive to that. But right now it's hard to speak into that. But knowing that that'll be a component as well. And so just asking the Lord to help us navigate that and have the guidance to lead that child, knowing that he or she will automatically be in the church from the get-go, which is great, but sometimes that can be hard.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a million different ways to parent your children, and there's no set right way, there's no set wrong way. Well, there are some wrong ways. But you just have to know that that the Lord has called you to share Christ with everyone, and that includes your children. And so if you're doing that to the best of your abilities, whatever that may look like, that you're doing everything right. You can't control whether or not your children are truly following God or not. That is solely up to them and God. So just, try to seek God in your life and to share God with those around you, including your children. And that's all that you can do, as hard as that can be to hear. But yeah. All right. So next question, and I'll start us off here. Were your parents more strict or more easygoing while you were growing up? So for me, my parents were always, they were never super strict, never just this hard, this is what you do, this is what you don't do, all this type of thing. For me, it was always just kind of because they raised me the way that they did, just kind of knowing what they wanted me to do and what they didn't want me to do. Kind of cultivated a sense of easygoingness. They trusted me. They didn't think that I was doing bad things when I was not at the house and things like that. And so, from the outside looking in, it was very easygoing. But also it was because I just kind of had those expectations and rules and things like that just kind of instilled in me. So if I would not have been abiding by them, it would have turned over into much more strict. like if that would have been going on or something like that, if I was a huge troublemaker or anything like that, then it would have been, I mean, incredibly strict. My parents, I mean, they didn't want me to not be going down the wrong path or anything like that. And so it was definitely it was easygoing as a family. We got along great, and I never felt scared of my parents, except for when I was getting in trouble. But who's not? And so, but it was underlying kind of a strict set of rules that I just kind of knew and didn't really go against. So if that kind of answers the question, I don't know. What about y'all?
I had the opposite. I had pretty strict parents. I grew up on a farm, and there were always like a lot of chores and a lot of things to do around the house and outside. And so my parents were also very strict when it came to hanging out with people. And they were more okay with people coming over to our house because it's like they could watch me and they could have their eye like on me versus like me going over to other people's houses and stuff like that. And they were very strict. Like I had to have I just knew before I could even ask to do anything that everything needed to be done. And it's like they were very strict when it came to a lot of different things. My brother, I think too, I was the firstborn and I'm a girl. So my dad was very strict with me. My brother, not so much. And I like to call my parents out on that. And that would get me in trouble as a kid because they would let him do stuff. And I'm like, excuse me, I was not allowed to do that. And they're like, well, he's a boy. And it's like, well, that doesn't matter. I still wasn't allowed to do it. And then I would get in trouble for back talking because I was a little sassy as a child.
Mm-hmm.
So I did have pretty strict parents. I look back on it and I'm like, I don't think it was a bad thing at all. I do laugh because I never had a curfew, mainly because I was just never out late all growing up. But the summer before I went to college, I was dating Keith, and my parents gave me a curfew the summer before I went to college. So I thought that was hilarious that I was 18 and got a curfew. And I look back now and I'm like, everything my parents did, they did out of love, and they probably protected me from a lot of things in how they did it. And of course, now that I'm a parent, I'm like, oh, like Luke's never going to do that, or I'm never going to let him do that. Like from that, like tables have turned kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like even though I did have strict parents, I value the fact that they were just trying to protect me. And I feel like they did. I was pretty sheltered as a kid, and not sheltered in a bad way. I mean, I went to public school and things, so like my eyes were open to some things, but there were other things like I didn't have to worry about just because my parents they were so strict that they kind of protected me from that and things that my eyes weren't really open to until college.
For sure. Sweet. And I'll say as a younger brother, I definitely they were much less strict on me than my older brother. So it's a thing. Whatever. All right. Conley and William, what about y'all? Conley, how about you go?
So my parents weren't really strict at all. They're pretty laid back. It's honestly pretty similar to how Jay described his parents. I knew what they expected of me, whether it was said or unsaid, and just kind of did what they asked of me, and no harm, no foul. And so I was terrified of getting in trouble, so I didn't want to do anything bad, so I didn't. And they never really, honestly, they trusted me so much that I probably could have gotten away with murder, but I would have been too terrified to murder somebody, so that wasn't gonna happen.
Well, I'm glad you're too terrified to murder people.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing.
I agree.
But yeah, so they really trusted me and stuff like that, which is good. I gave them no reason to not trust me, because I did what they asked of me. So things were pretty laid back, pretty chill. I had a curfew. I lived really far out, so I would always like ask to increase curfew, and usually they would because they knew that I wasn't anywhere that I wasn't supposed to be.
Mhm.
Usually at Jay's house, hanging out with youth, with people in youth groups. So it was like, yeah, sure, we know where you are. We know the parents that you're with, so you're cool. But yeah, so not super strict at all. But it was also because I didn't give them really a reason to be strict. Like Jay said, if I would have, then they would have been more strict with me.
All right, William.
William, yeah, you got it, William.
So I kind of, I guess my parents were somewhat strict. I was the middle child, so regardless of what happened, I was at fault. Like it just was. Even now, I will call my mom up and she's like, "Where did you hide this dish?" I'm like, "I haven't lived at home for 10 years. Well over that. What do you mean, where did I hide it?"
Oh man.
And then I would have trouble remembering if I was there anyway. So I literally was the bad kid. I almost went deaf when I was younger. So when I was about James's age, I really couldn't hear a whole lot, so I didn't care what anyone thought. I was going to do my own thing, push my brother off couches, do crazy things. But my parents really, surprisingly, they didn't kill me. And more surprisingly, they weren't quite as strict as some people. I had curfews growing up, but probably about middle school, um, I guess things changed when my hearing got better. Um, and so, yeah, I would say they're not terribly strict.